Hello friends, welcome to UGC PG Pathshala of Geography. Myself Taruna Bansal, Assistant Professor at Jamia Millia Islamia in the Department of Geography. Today I will be speaking on agroclimatic regions of India. As we all know, India is an agricultural economy based country. So the need to study agroclimatic region is very important. The main objectives of today's lecture is to understand why climate plays a very important role in agriculture, and therefore the regionalization should be based not only on agro factors but also on climatic factors. Such a deal has been, or a plan has been made by Indian government for better planning of agricultural regions. Agroclimatic zones or regions are one such attempt. So my first objective is why these agroclimatic regions has been delineated. Second, to provide a comprehensive list of these 15 agroclimatic regions of India, and thirdly, what are the characteristics of each of these regions which makes them remarkable or significant in their own feature. Now I start with the introduction. Regionalization has been used for planning at various levels. Several methodologies has been used for regionalization depending on the purpose as well as ends. An important objective of these efforts was to evolve agroecological regional maps of the country in order to delineate comparable resource regions for generating and transferring agrotechnology to meet the country's need of food, fodder and fiber. Regionalization is important for regional development, and in a country like India, which is known for its unity in diversity, regionalization plays a very important role. This is because if we have a proper regionalization scheme, the overall development, be it agricultural, be it economic or social, can occur at a much better rate than otherwise. Most early attempts at regionalization were on the basis of broad natural regions, existing cropping patterns, as well as a broad framework of climatic variations at a macro scale. Number of authors have done this. For example, Mitra divided the country into 7 natural regions. They were similarly Murthy and Pandey demarcated the country into 8 regions on the basis of physiographic, soils, rainfall and water balance, and as well as agricultural practices. This regionalization but was very general and overemphasized on some of the agroclimatic indicators. As a result, the National Commission on Agriculture in 1971 classified the country into 127 agroclimatic zones. The Planning Commission has adopted agricultural zonation on the various parameters for agricultural planning. They prepared bioclimatic maps on the basis of rainfall and potential evapotranspiration, that is PET values, which influence the biotic environment. Krishna in 2004 prepared 40 soil climatic zones, areas falling in the same climate and water balance class and have similar soil types. On the basis of the soil types and moisture index, the moisture index was based on Thornthwaite-Mather moisture index, commonly known as MI approach, where P is the precipitation. Thus, climatic classes were superimposed on 13 soil zone maps to evolve 40 soil climatic zones. The basic criticism of this approach was that although soil types were included in the zonation, they were not classified on the basis of their water retention capacity. As a result of all these attempts, in 1964, Planning Commission based its regionalization of India on physical conditions 1, topography 2, geomorphology 3, rainfall 4, cropping pattern 5, development of irrigation 6, as well as land resources number 7, and this entire thing was done at the district level. The function of the National Agricultural Research Project in 1979 by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, that is ICAR, initiated experimental programs on agricultural research. agroclimatic zonation or ecological land classification was undertaken on the basis of parameters like soils, climate, topography, vegetation, crops, etc. For delimitation of 126 zones, the National Bureau of Soil Survey and Land Use Planning made comprehensive attempt at agroecological regionalization, and therefore the country was divided into 20 regions following the FAO methodology of sequential layering of information on maps. It was done in 1992. The regions were aggregated on the basis of uniform climatic factors, physiography, natural vegetation, soils and length of growing period. The major emphasis of this regionalization in particular was the bioclimatic factor and the length of growing period. In 1988, under the Planning Commission, another attempt at regionalization was made, and now the country was divided into 15 agroclimatic regions which had 73 more sub-regions. It was nothing but an extension of the climatic classification, keeping in view the suitability to agriculture. In all the attempts at agroclimatic zoning, although importance was given to other indicators, as usual, emphasis was given to the inherent commonality of the agrometeorological indicators as well as water resource development. An important outcome of all these attempts or exercises of regionalization was that a need was felt by a number of scholars as well as organizations to include parameters like soils, temperature, topography, vegetation, geohydrology, water and farm technology in order to have more comprehensive agroecological zoning. This was required because agriculture is not a primary resource. Agriculture is dependent on all these resources or rather all these indicators or features or factors which are directly influencing the suitability of a particular region to a typical type of agriculture. If these are not considered, then naturally the regionalization scheme or zoning scheme has some things left out. Agroclimatic regions of India. Therefore, in 1988, the Planning Commission came up with growth strategy based on a holistic approach of area planning for long-term resource efficiency and sustainability. The motivation behind this was that resource-based planning became feasible once homogeneous regions with respect to natural resource endowments, that is agroclimatic factors, which were being delineated, and their utilization of available natural resource endowments was related to requirements of output and employment. During the late 1980s, a consensus seemed to have been developed or achieved on the primacy of topography for a regional division of India. Based on this notion, the Planning Commission delineated 15 agroclimatic zones. There still existed wide variation in geographical area, population density, soil types and crops grown. But since here we are talking on agroclimatic region, the main emphasis was on commonality between the agricultural practices. That is how agriculture was being influenced by climatic factors and the commonalities these two had. So population density, soil types or crop grown, or even the geographical area or administrative boundaries were not taken into consideration. To increase the degree of homogeneity in these zones, climatic zones, 15 zones were further divided into 73 subzones made on a more specific soil types, topography, climate and cropping pattern characteristics. A planning team was set up for each zone, and each zone was sub-regionalized on the basis of these factors which were intrinsically linked with the character of agricultural economy. These were, as mentioned above, soil type, temperature, rainfall, their variation, relevant meteorological characteristics, water demand and supply, including quality of water and aquifer conditions. It was also decided that at this stage it was better to concentrate on agroclimatic characteristics and to not bring in other social and administrative criteria for regionalization. This was the decision of Government of India in 1988, though other features like landholding, workforce population, employment, living standards were considered for the process of building up of systematic computer compatible datasets. The major emphasis was nothing but agricultural development levels and trends. These regionalization methods even emphasize the importance of physiographic divisions and administrative boundaries. Water balance analysis, soil water retention capacity for crop potential and land capability mapping, carrying capacity estimation were not incorporated in this regionalization scheme. This identification of agroclimatic zones for the purpose of developing location-specific research and development strategies for increasing agricultural production has been given the due impetus recently. In order to plan agricultural activities more accurately, each region into sub-regions based on soil climate, rain-fed and other agroclimatic characteristics. Planning Commission has demarcated the geographical area of India into 15 agroclimatic regions. These regions have been further subdivided into more homogeneous 72 sub-regions. The main objectives of agroclimatic regions were to optimize agricultural production. One, as I again said, that the main emphasis here the better or sustainable production capacity of each agricultural zone. Second, to increase farm income. Third, to generate more rural employment. Fourth, to make a judicious use of the available irrigation water. Fifth, to reduce the regional qualities in the development of agriculture. So, if we understand these 5 main bases of these agroclimatic zones, we basically understand that the main purpose of this regionalization is optimum utilization of resources, be it natural resources, be it social resources or be it economic resources. Now, we will discuss each one of these 15 agroclimatic zones. I start with zone 1, which is called Western Himalayan region. This region extends in Jammu and Kashmir, Uttar Pradesh. Zone 2, Eastern Himalayan region, which is in Assam, Sikkim, West Bengal and all northern eastern states. Zone 3 is Lower Gangetic Plains, which consists of West Bengal. Zone 4 is Middle Gangetic Plains, which consists of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Zone 5 is Upper Gangetic Plains, which is Uttar Pradesh. Then we have zone 6, it is nothing but the Trans-Gangetic Plains, which is found in Punjab, Haryana, Delhi and Rajasthan. Zone 7 is Eastern Plateau and Plains, it's Eastern Plateau and Hills. Zone 7, yeah. Zone 7, this is Eastern Plateau and Hills. This region is found in Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Odisha and West Bengal. Zone 8 is Central Plateau and Hills, which is Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh. Zone 9 is Western Plateau and Hills, which is again in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and in Rajasthan. We have Zone 10 as Southern Plateaus and Hills, which is found in Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Zone 11 is East Coast Plains and Hills. It is in Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry. Zone 12 is West Coast Plains and Ghats, which is Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Goa, Karnataka, Maharashtra. Zone 13 are Gujarat Plains and Hills, basically in Gujarat. Zone 14 is Western Dry region, that is Rajasthan, and Zone 15 is the islands, which consists of Andaman Nicobar Islands as well as Lakshadweep. These 15 zones have been shown in the map provided in the literature, and what I have tried to show here by giving this particular table or the location of these 15 zones is that administrative boundaries are not important. You see, in a number of zones, if we see Central Ganga Plains or Middle Gangetic Plains, and even in your central plateau regions, maybe the states are overlapping. That is because administrative boundaries have not been taken into consideration. Here the agriculture is main. Agriculture which has the region which has homogeneity or commonality with respect to agriculture and to some respect to climate. Now I'll discuss each one of these zones in detail. I've just mentioned the names. Now we come to the details of each zones. We start with zone 1, which is Western Himalayan region. It includes parts of Jammu Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Kumaon Garhwal areas of Uttaranchal. It has great variation in relief naturally because they are part of Himalayas, and we all know that Himalaya has a varied topography. Summer season is mild. July average temperature is from 5 degrees to 30 degrees depending on the altitude, but the winter experiences are very harsh because we have cold temperatures which can even go down to -4 degrees Celsius. The amount of rainfall, annual rainfall in here is about 150 centimeters. Zonal arrangement is found in vegetation as, with the increasing height or with varying height, the type of plants or the natural vegetation also changes. And as we are talking of Himalayas, we know that Himalayas have different layers or different levels. We have lesser Himalayas and we have also middle Himalayas or higher Himalayas. So naturally the vegetation is changing from one part of Himalayas to other. So that is quite evident in this particular region. We also have valleys and dunes which have thick layers of alluvium, example being Jhelum Valley if we talk of Kashmir, which is made of lacustrine, and we have Dehradun Valley if we talk of Garhwal Himalayas, and hill slopes have thin brown hilly soils. The region is gifted with number of perennial streams due to high rainfall and snow covered mountains which provide annual water supply to them, and here in which Ganga, Yamuna, Jhelum, Chenab, Satluj, Beas are some of the worth mentioning ones. These provide irrigation waters to canals and cheap hydroelectricity power for agriculture and industries. But in recent years, the increasing human interference had led to the deterioration of the ecological system of this particular region. Humans have occupied each and every corner of mountains. Due to this, there have been high, or rather I should say, disbalance of ecological systems even at the micro level in these mountains, and especially when we have rapid construction activities going on everywhere. As I said, that there have been ecological disbalances in the form of construction activities like buildings, transport routes, mining, and these all have led to depletion of tree cover, making area prone to landslides, pollution, receding glaciers and water scarcity. So that is why what we see is that disasters have prone or become rather this region has become disaster prone in last few years, because continuously we are depleting, or rather we are disbalancing the local ecological system of this particular region. The floods in Uttarakhand 2 years back is one such example, or even the Kashmir floods are also example of the disasters which are happening because of increasing penetration or interference of man with the environment in this particular agroclimatic zone. Rice is the main crop of the region, which is cultivated in terraced fields along the hill slopes. Apart from rice, we have maize, wheat, potato, barley. Temperate fruits are also grown, in which apple and pear are very important. We all know apple of Jammu Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh are famous throughout the world. Similarly, tea plantations have also come up, but they are restricted mainly in Garhwal, Kumaon Hills. The horticulture of this particular region has some problems because people have not yet shifted from agriculture to horticulture, and mainly because of the investment problems. There have been a financial crisis, and also because of lack of improved varieties of plants and high post-harvest losses. Sometimes there are about 20% of losses that the people have to suffer from. This needs improvements in old unproductive orchards using the recent techniques of grafting, introduction of new fast growing varieties of plants, and development of infrastructure facilities is required. Environmental conditions of this region are well suited for the development of garden and plantation crops. Therefore, more and more emphasis should be that people are shifting without disturbing the natural ecosystem, natural balance of the ecology in this particular region. People should shift to the crops or the garden crops in such a form that there is a balance between the ecology of this particular region, so that the homogeneity of the region is maintained and the region can develop on the basis of its agriculture. A more rational land use planning therefore is required or is essential, so that agriculture, horticulture, pasture, forestry all can be together and can be so together that can be demarcated on the basis of each one of these characteristics. For example, agriculture on land of up to 30% of slopes. But if the land is having slope more than 30% till 50%, it is better for horticulture for the development. And if the slope is more than 50%, it should be left for tree cover. Better quality planting material should be made available to fruit growers. Thus, this provides us that the region has favorable climatic conditions for growing temperate crops or vegetables or crops like ginger and saffron, and an effort should be made not only from the government but also from the local persons that they shift to these agricultural practices, so that the agricultural homogeneity of the region is maintained, which actually leads to regional development or the development of the region. Now we come to the zone 2, which is Eastern Himalayan region. As the name suggests, the Eastern Himalayan region consists of Sikkim, Darjeeling area in West Bengal, and the northeast states, that is Arunachal Pradesh, hills of Assam, Nagaland, Meghalaya Plateau, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. It is characterized with rugged topography, thick forest cover and subhumid climate, as this is the region which experiences most rainfall throughout the year. That's nearly 200 centimeters. The temperature varies from 26 to 33 degrees Celsius in July, and in January it's from 11 to 24 degrees Celsius. The soil is brownish, thick layered and less fertile. Shifting cultivation, normally called jhum, is practiced here in 1/3 of the cultivated area, and food crops which are raised are mainly for sustenance. These include rice, potato, maize, tea. Among fruits we have orange, pineapple, lime, lychee. But lychee is an exception, because lychee comes in a very smaller regions, because lychee is mainly a fruit of western Himalayas. We found lychee in Garhwal Himalayas. So as to say that lychee being the main crop in eastern Himalayas would not be right, but in some regions maybe it is found. Pineapple is very famous out here among fruits. The ecological system of this region is problematic. Now, why do I say this? Because if we see the natural features or characteristics of this region, we see that first of all, it is a rugged topography of Himalayas with a mighty Brahmaputra flowing, and the climate is also not as as defined as that was in the western Himalayas. So and moreover, if we come to the administrative part or the administrative boundaries, again northeast has always been a problematic zone. So the overall ecological system is problematic here. The region needs marked improvement in infrastructural facilities to accelerate the pace of development. Soil degradation should be arrested by controlling deforestation and by terracing in hills. We know jhum cultivation, which is also called as shifting cultivation, is one of the form of deforestation, because what we do is we cultivate the land and we do then slash and burn. So we leave the land fallow for some time, which is of no use. So somehow it is degrading the capacity of land, and it may further lead to deforestation, and deforestation always leads to unhealthy balances in the ecosystem. So this should be checked. The runoff should be checked, and water conservation should be utilized in minor irrigation projects. Shifting cultivation should be controlled by encouraging permanent settlements. A program to grow fruits above 30% slopes in the hills need to be framed. Supporting activities of sericulture, handicrafts, poultry and piggery should be promoted. A long-term quality seed production plan should be implemented to assure adequate supply of quality seeds to the farmers. Now, if you see the difference between zone 1 and zone 2, you can easily understand how different in respect to agriculture these two are. Now, if we refer to the first region, you see I kept on saying that this is being done, like for example, if the slope is still 30 degrees, 30%, agriculture is being practiced as terraces, or on rice is being cultivated on terraced fields. If the slope is from 30 to 50 degrees or rather 30 to 50%, then we have some other crops, and if the slope is above 50%, it should be left for tree cover. But nothing such characteristic is visible in the eastern part of this particular eastern zone of country. This is because of the varied topography, which is very, very rugged. Now, in these two agroclimatic regions, what I have done is I've tried to explain you why these zones or why this regionalization scheme is different from other regionalization schemes. Now, what I'll do is we have zone 3 to zone 15. I'll just give you a framework of what these zones are, what are the basic characteristics of these, which you can further, and for any further explanation, you can read the text which is being provided along with this lecture. So we come to the zone 3, which is nothing but the lower Gangetic Plain region. This region spreads over eastern Bihar, West Bengal and Assam Valley. Since we are talking of lower Gangetic Plains, so naturally we have high water table, and canals and wells are the main irrigation sources. Now, what is the problem of this region is that waterlogging is here, and therefore what has happened here is that the crops which are being grown are rice, but strategies have changed here. Strategies have changed in the sense that within rice, people have started horticulture. Now, within rice fields, you'll see banana also coming up, mango also coming up, number of citrus fruit are also being grown. Apart from this rice, we also see pisciculture being an important characteristic of this particular region. And sometimes we also have good, fishes from this freshwater fishes from this particular region, which has led to the development of this particular zone. Now, but to include all this, there should be a commitment at the state level to guide and monitor the implementation of these processes. Zilla Parishad or the village panchayat should have control, or should have a trained staff to look into the matter so that the region develops. Now, the zone 4, it's again a Gangetic Plain, which is called as Middle Gangetic Plain. This region consists of part of Uttar Pradesh, rather eastern Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, but Chota Nagpur Plateau is not a part of this. It is a fertile alluvial plain drained by Ganga river and its tributaries. Now, when we talk of this particular region, again, this is a region which has a vast groundwater potential, and as perennial rivers are flowing through this, irrigation is done either by tube wells, canals or wells. Rice, maize, millets, wheat, rather all the major important rabi or kharif crops are grown in this particular region. And the major agricultural strategy is that this agricultural produce is introduced to the modern market so that we have more improved yields as per as yields, so that the development is again at the local level. Maize production is replacing paddy and millets with fruits and vegetables. Kharif pulses, in which we have arhar, is being encouraged. So what I mean to say is that here we have mixed agriculture. Here we do not have as rice as the dominant crop or a maize. Here number of crops throughout the season or throughout the year are being grown as the climate is supporting the growth of these crops. Zone 5 is called the Upper Gangetic Plain region. This region encompasses central and western parts of Uttar Pradesh. The climate is subhumid, continental, and here this region is different because the factors, be it soil, be it the temperature, is very different from lower Gangetic Plain as well as the middle Gangetic Plain. But as again this is part of Gangetic Plain, tube wells, canals are the main source of irrigation, even wells. So but this region comparatively is intensive agricultural region. Here by intensive means that the entire crops which are grown are used or grown through traditional methods. Modernization of agriculture has not taken place here, although now people are focusing on some dairy development and have shifted to horticulture. But if we talk of horticulture here, the important feature or the significant characteristic of horticulture is in this particular region is that most of the horticulture has developed along the major cities. Here I can cite an example of horticulture being practiced on the corridor from Delhi to Ghaziabad. So if you travel along that particular highway, you will see horticulture being practiced. So but it is not as such people have shifted from agriculture to horticulture. Therefore, the major strategy should be that mixed cropping patterns should be encouraged, so that people are growing flowers as a sunflower, they are growing potatoes, and they are growing as well as rice or wheat. So this is required in this particular region. Somewhere there have been problems of reclaiming saline soils, eucalyptus trees, improving cattle breed. These are the problems, but government surely is taking that into consideration. Now we have the zone 6, which is Trans-Gangetic Plain region. Here we have Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, Chandigarh and Ganganagar district of Rajasthan. The climate is semi-arid. Naturally, as more we move towards west, the climate becomes arid as we are moving near the desert. And that is what is happening. So now we are moving to a region where rainfall is comparatively lower than the eastern part of the country. Therefore, here private tube wells and canals becomes major source of irrigation as rainfall is lesser. Important crops are wheat, sugarcane, cotton, rice, gram, millets and oilseeds. The region has the credit of introduction of Green Revolution. Green Revolution occurred here, and we have all seen that India has benefited from the Green Revolution through use of HYV, high yielding variety seeds of seeds for different crops, especially with wheat, and also with greater degree of mechanization in agriculture. But now the region is facing the problem of waterlogging, salinity, alkalinity, soil erosion and is falling water table. So now the major strategy for this region should be diversion of area under rice and wheat to other crops like maybe maize, pulses, oilseeds, or development of genotypes of rice also, along with inbuilt resistance for pests and diseases, and also promotion of horticulture besides pulses and like tur and peas. Zone 7 is the Eastern Plateau and Hill region. This comprises of the Chota Nagpur Plateau, Rajmahal Hills, Chhattisgarh Plains and the Dandakaranya region. The region again has a temperature which is of subtropical nature, and here soils are red and yellow, which has some patches of alluvium and laterites. The region is deficient in water resources due to plateau structure and non-perennial streams. Now see, here we see the difference of climatic factors. See, the 6 regions which we discussed till now were water sufficient, but now we come to water deficient regions. So here rainfall is again indicated as an important indicator while regionalization of this particular zonation in India, that is the agroclimatic zones of India. Now, what are the features here? Rainfall agriculture is practiced as rainfall is deficient or the region is deficient. So, the crops which are ragi, gram, and here the major planning which is required is in maximizing the use of rainwater which is available, so that a balanced crop production is provided there or is the outcome. Now we have zone 8, which is central plateau and hill region. This region spreads over Bundelkhand, Bagelkhand, Bhandar plateau, Malwa plateau and Vindhyachal hills. The climate is semi-arid in western part to subhumid in eastern part, with temperature in July month 26 to 40 degrees Celsius, while in January it's between 7 to 24 degrees. Rainfall is only between 50 to 100 centimeters. Now since this is again a water deficient region, you'll see the types of crop which are grown here are different. We have millets, we have barley, wheat, cotton. Right. So the region, the suggested measures should be again that water should be conserved, and there should be number of water saving devices like sprinklers and drip system. Again, as I said earlier, for details you can always refer to the literature provided. Now we go to the zone 9. Zone 9 is the western plateau and hill regions, which is mainly the southern part of Malwa plateau and Deccan plateau in Maharashtra. This is if we say this is one of the areas which is not only which has a very less percentage of soil, rather net sown area, and even the irrigation land under irrigation is very less, it's just 12%, and the area is only known for its oranges, bananas and grapes. Now since again this area is deficient in water, increasing water efficiency is required in this particular region. The lower value crops should be provided, or rather should be encouraged, like jowar and bajra. Now we come to zone 10. Southern plateau and hill region consists of zone 10. It incorporates southern Maharashtra, Karnataka, western Andhra Pradesh and northern Tamil Nadu. Now this region is again water deficient because we have annual rainfall only between 50 to 100%, and it also has low cropping intensity, low value cereals and Minna Malus are the major crops which are grown here, and therefore it has always been said that cropping should be mixed cropping, where soya bean, horticulture and all these should be given priority. Tank irrigation is important here because we do not have water, sufficient water for irrigation. That is why we have sprinklers and drip system. Now the zone 11, which is east coast plains and hill regions. This region includes the Coromandel coast and the northern Sircar coast, and the climate is maritime basically, as we are talking of coasts. And since these are coasts, the soil is alluvial and the major problem is alkalinity. But then also groundnut is a very important crop here, and it is a major issue here is cultivation of spices and development of fisheries. So as we shift from mainland to the coastal area, we see the shift in the agricultural practices. Now we have fisheries coming up as one of the major practices, especially in this particular region, which is a coastal region. The 12th zone is the west coast plains and the Ghat regions. Again, this is the coastal plain which extends from Malabar and Konkan coast to Sahyadris, and this is covered by laterite and coastal alluviums. This is a humid region because it has rainfall above nearly around 150 to 200 centimeters. This is known for plantation crops. And we have high value crops here like coffee, so which should be even given more importance. But sometimes we do have low productivity of paddy, but that's not important because other crops are important here, and even fisheries has developed here. Zone 13 is Gujarat plains and regions. This is the Kathiawar and the fertile valleys of Mahi and Saraswati rivers. This is again a semi-arid region and soils are not very fertile. Groundnut, cotton are the main crops. Oilseed producing region. This region is regarded as the major oilseed producing region of India. Zone 14 is the western dry region. It comprises of Rajasthan, and as it is a desert, we do not have much crops here. There's absence of perennial rivers, and land-man ratio, since is high, the land under pastures is low, cultivable waste is there, net irrigated land is very low, not even more, like it's only around 6%. Bajra, jowar are the major crops, and agricultural development strategies need to be focused here so that some agricultural development can occur here. The last zone are the islands, that is the islands of Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep Islands. They have equatorial climate and nothing much has been done here, but still rice, maize, millets are being grown. Coconut is a very important crop, but if we see the overall picture of this zone, agriculture is not developed, it's backward. And fisheries, but fisheries can be important here because they are islands where if proper infrastructure is built, fisheries can be promoted here. Now, what is the conclusion of this particular region or this particular lecture? The conclusion is that if proper initiatives are taken, proper program strategies are implemented and integrated with the ground level, these agroclimatic zones can actually lead to proper agricultural development at local level in the country. And local level means from national to state to district to even to maybe village level. So for proper regional development, this is one of the best approaches which the Planning Commission has come up with for agricultural development. Thank you.